Hi, and welcome to Untethered with Jenless, the podcast that's here to help you free yourself from the crap that's holding you back so you can claim the life you're meant to live. I'm your host, Jen, and in this episode, we're talking about following the breadcrumbs of yes. Let's dive in. Hey, it's Jen. Welcome back to the podcast. This weekend, I got to officiate a wedding. What were you up to? So wild, so wild. Such an amazing, amazing experience and such a massive honor to get to do that for two friends and something I could never have imagined happening for myself had I not followed the breadcrumbs of yes. This is something, just 3 years ago, it would have been unimaginable that somebody would have even thought of me for this role. In fact, I asked my friends, why did you think of me? And they're like, well, we see you speak. We know that you could do we trust you. We know and we trust you. And we know that you're good with words and all of these things that you can stand up in front of a crowd. And they thought of me. There's no way that if I had not said yes to so many little experiences, I think back to this moment, the very first time that I ever went live on Facebook, which was during COVID, when the night before I was freaking out. Everything was closing down. The world was shutting down. And I was like, I'm going to be working from home tomorrow. This is what a nightmare. And I had the thought, what can I do to help people right now? And it was posed to me from someone else, actually, what can you do to help people right now in this moment? What skills do you have that you can bring to the table? And I thought, oh my gosh, I have creativity. I can bring creativity to the table. And so I ended up creating a Facebook group. I called it the Creative Commute. I went live at 7 a.m. during the time I would have been commuting to work. And I issued a creative challenge. It was to 11 friends that first day. And it ended up by the end of the Creative Commute, it was 800 people who were in there. And I turned on my little computer screen and I sat there and I breathed deep and I hit record and I went live and I issued this creative challenge, which was make something magical. The magical things that have come out of that moment of that yes to showing up with my gifts and offering those gifts to others in a time of need, that yes has led to so many yeses. In my own career, I ended up having so many things that came about. I've now spoken on stage internationally. I have had the most amazing experiences that all started with that single yes. I followed these breadcrumbs and I just keep doing it. One of the people in my life who continues to encourage me to follow those breadcrumbs of yes is Misty Springer. And Misty Springer is a friend of mine who I met through my breathwork program. She is actually my partner in the program, and I'm so blessed to have been partnered up with her. And you're going to see why. She is amazing. Misty is a life coach who is a part transformation artist who helps her clients release limiting beliefs, own their purpose, and activate their potential to show up as powerful creators in their life and business. She is all about empowering people. She is all about us following our own personal yeses. And she knows so much about somatic embodiment. And she really works with the heart, the mind, and the body to help people transform. And I really wanted you to meet her because she's like this little magical elf who is in my pocket, always cheering me on and just helping me to reflect in new and interesting ways. And we do this for each other. We have just the most beautiful relationship. And I just am so excited for you to hear some of the magic that she's been whispering in my ear. And then you can go follow her and continue following her magic because she's just so cool. Everyone, welcoming onto the podcast, the amazing Misty Springer. Hi, Misty.
Hello. So thrilled to be here with you, Jen.
So Misty is a gift that dropped into my life in the most magical way. We took our breath course together and we got paired. How many people are in there? Like 100, a lot. There's a
There's
lot
a
of people.
lot. Yeah.
And out of them, we got paired together and it's just been the best journey. And I was like, will you please come on the podcast? I need all my podcast friends and family to know who you are.
Which I so appreciate. And it really, truly has been such a gift. And this journey, I know, was meant to have you included in it when I said yes to pause and to the breathwork journey. I had no idea that you were going to be a part of that journey. And I know it was part of that little breadcrumb of yes that I followed. So just thrilled to be here.
That's so beautiful. And I love that you just went to that breadcrumbs of yes, because that's something that you have shared with me. And it's so key in the message of who you are, what you do, what you truly believe in, and what you're calling women forward to is this following the breadcrumbs of yes. So I would love to hear you describe what that is. And maybe even what are some of the breadcrumbs of yes that you yourself have followed that have helped you along your journey?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I think that, like you said, that breadcrumb of yes pretty much sums up the journey that I have been on personally and the journey that I take my clients on and that I really try to embody in everything that I do. And as you know, the journey that we take our clients on is the journey that we ourselves have walked. And so one of the things that I have really been exploring is what is that breadcrumb of yes? What does that full body yes in our bodies feel like? And I think it comes back to just what I have been studying and looking at for the last, 20 years. Started out in mental health and looking at what helps women to create change. And it was all about the mind and the mental health. But what I realized was that we were only looking at one piece. And then if we just look at our mind, we're only accessing about 20% of our transformational power. But when we move into our body and our heart, we're really accessing is the word I'm looking for, 80% of our transformational power. And so why wouldn't we want to access 80%? And what I have found over the years is that 80% is found in our body and our heart. And that is where we feel that yes. That's what I call the full body yes. It's that feeling that pulls us forward. It's that feeling that says, I get to, versus our mind that says, I have to. And so when we really can tune into our body and our heart, when we can tap into that full body yes, then the next step, the next little breadcrumb kind of presents itself, and we get to follow those breadcrumbs of yes to, in energetic alignment with where we're meant to go and the woman we know in our heart we're designed to be. Mm-hmm. That is, one of the ways that I found you, honestly, and the whole breathwork journey. It wasn't something that logically made sense. And I know you understand this because we've had this conversation before. I couldn't logically see how breathwork fit in. I knew that it could be a part of what I was doing in my coaching, but really it was about tuning into my body and heart, listening and trusting and following that little breadcrumb of yes that led me into a really beautiful place that took me in the direction exactly that I wanted to go, but had no idea was going to be such a beautiful part of my journey when I began. So that's kind of the following the breadcrumbs of yes, but we can go into much more detail around that, but that's the general idea.
Yeah. I love that it was both of us were doing exactly that, as you mentioned, that led us to breath work. However, I have to believe that you probably, and because this was also me, and you said, we follow our own journey and that's what we end up teaching. I didn't understand how to do that at first. And you mentioned even just the mindset piece. And I think mindset work is pretty prevalent. I think we all understand, work on my mindset, but embodiment work, coming into our body, listening to our body, that's newer. So how do you help your clients understand that this is a body thing. And do you run into that where people are like, wait, what? What do I need to do?
Yeah. Well, because I think particularly here in Western culture, we're not taught how to listen to our bodies. In fact, we're taught the exact opposite. We're taught, listen to your best friend, listen to the podcast, take the latest training, get the coaching, do the funnel, set up your business in a certain funnel, like do it this way, and then you'll get results. And it's pretty much do it the way that somebody else is telling you to do it. Whether that's your best friend or a podcast, you're listening outside of yourself and you're looking outside of yourself for the answers. And that can create a huge level of frustration, because when we think about it, if we, like, for example, if we want to become a cyclist, I want to become a cyclist. I can listen to a podcast. I can talk to my best friend about what cycling looks like. I can take a training or read a book. I can do all those things, but that's only 20% of becoming a cyclist. It isn't until I get outside on my bike and I feel what balance feels like, and I feel what the pedals feel like underneath my feet, or I feel the exhilaration of the wind in my face and the feeling of, yes, this is why I love cycling. I want to get out and do this again and again and again. That's when I become a cyclist. So if we want to become something different, there has to be a alignment of our mind and our body and our heart, right? We have to become something different through experience. One of my favorite quotes, Einstein says, imagination is the preview of life's coming attractions. That when we can really step into and embody through our imagination, when we can really create something that we feel in our bodies, not just know in our mind, that's when we start to become something different. And I think it's a really powerful gift that we can give ourselves to tap into the wisdom and the power of our body, because it truly is our best friend. It truly is here on our side and will give us those next steps and the breadcrumbs to follow in the direction that we want to go.
Mm-hmm. So do you believe that when somebody wants to become, we can stick with the cyclist metaphor, somebody wants to become the next Lance Armstrong, they want to become the next cyclist, is there imagining that happens in their mind of feeling it, or is it getting out on the cycle? Like where is your thought process between like the two things intermingling? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think it's both. I think it's spiritually creating what we want first in our mind and our body and our heart. So a good example of this is, there was a time when I was really struggling in my business. I wanted to feel this expansion in my business. I wanted to feel this expansion in myself. And I wanted to have something different than what I was creating. I wanted more income and I wanted more impact in the clients that I was attracting into my business, but it felt hard. It felt like everything that I was doing I was like hitting up against an invisible brick wall. It was just like I was doing all the things that everybody was telling me to do, but I was getting nowhere.
We've all been there.
Yeah, right? Like why is this not working? Every other goal that I've set for myself in my life, I've been able to say, oh, here's the goal that I want to meet. And here's the steps that I'm going to take to get there. And then I get there. But with my business, it wasn't happening. It wasn't happening for me. It felt like it was hard. And it felt like I had to get out there and be in the grind and do all the things in order to create the results that I wanted. And yet the results never came. Year after year after year, it just felt like I was putting my nose to the grindstone with no results. And I remember at one point I was at a retreat and I was on a journey. It was just a little nature walk. And as part of the nature walk, they just gave us some time for quiet reflection and meditation. And I was sitting on the edge of a lake and I was watching these swallows, and they were diving and swooping, and they looked like they were just playing and having so much fun and just dancing on the wind. And I remember thinking, gosh, that is what I want. I just want that feeling of lightness and freedom, and just that, like, I just want to feel like I'm dancing instead of just everything being so hard. And in that moment, as I was sitting there, it was like a little voice dropped in, like, Misty, they are doing their important work. They are doing the work that they were meant to do. And yet it doesn't have to be hard, right? They weren't just dancing on the wind. They were actually catching bugs. They were catching and taking those back to their nest and doing the work that they were meant to be doing. But it was fun. It was light. It was full of ease and flow. And I realized in that moment, that's the feeling that I want to create. And so from that place, just embodying and capturing and starting each day, like every day, I would just imagine that I was sitting on that lake and that I was just in that flow. And from that place, that's when things started to change. It wasn't from the doing, it was from being something different. It was living as if I was already in that flow. And when I started my day out in that energy, things started to come in a really different way.
Yeah. I mean, for myself, that's something that I say it every day. Like I do believe work can be done with fun and ease. This business can be run with fun and ease. I've built a business that was not built with fun and ease, and I'm not going back to that, Misty. And I know you and I have talked about that. It's like we've lived in this world for so long where we believe it has to be push, 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 and that's not the feminine energy that so many of us are meant to be working in, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. So, I mean, I know that you and I have talked about that. That's something that we have felt ourselves in our lives too. So it's like, how do we be that sparrow?
Well, I love, there's so many things about what you said that I just think are so powerful. I think first is just speaking to that feminine energy. And I do believe that there is a whole new understanding of what that feminine, that true feminine energy is. And I really feel that it is not so much about I am woman, hear me roar. It's I am woman, hear me love. Because that is truly the most powerful force in the universe, is this ability to tap into that feminine gift that we have, not just compassion for others, but compassion for ourselves and the beliefs that we hold about ourselves. I think one of the things that you mentioned also was this idea of belief about what I believe to be true. And for a long time, we believed it was only possible to create results through that force, that push, that, I'm going to have to just go harder, faster, more hours, because that's going to create the results that I want. And for many of us, that feels inauthentic. It doesn't feel like it's how we want to run a business or our life. And one of the things that I work with my clients on is your energy is your greatest asset. What the energy you create with is your greatest asset. It's not the actions that you take, it's the energy that you come into the actions with. So, for example, I started out for a long time. My belief, one of the invisible brick walls that I was running up against, the limiting beliefs that I held, was that I could not be a good mom and run a successful business, that they were like either or. Either I have time for my family or I have time for my business. I don't have time for both. And that held me back for a long, long time, because I felt like if I was going to be successful in my business, it meant that my family would suffer. And the universe gave me a really beautiful opportunity to reframe and restructure that belief in a not so beautiful way, which is, of course, sometimes the way that we learn. A couple of years ago, my daughter was diagnosed. She was in her first year of college, and she was diagnosed with a chronic, really debilitating disease. And she was 8 hours away. And I was traveling back and forth, trying to help her, getting phone calls at 10 o'clock at night. Really, just all of my energy felt like, oh my goodness, my daughter needs my help. And I had at that moment an opportunity to really look at that belief. Like, can I, my default was, well, I guess I just have to put my business aside because my daughter needs my help, right? Like, I can't have both. And I was able to step back from that long enough, thankfully, to just ask, is that true? Is that really true that I can't have both? And what I determined was that I was going to go into the energy of caring for my daughter and caring for my business, that I could have both, that both were absolutely a priority, that both were important, and that both were accessible at the same time. I could have a successful business and I could take really good care of my daughter. And so I literally put all of my actions aside, all the pushing, all the like sitting at my desk, trying to create all these different pieces of my business, following all the rules. I literally set everything aside except for what I got quiet and still about, and really tuned into, okay, what is the most important parts of my business? What are the parts that really need my focus and attention? And they were showing up in 100% service to my clients, building the belief that I could have a successful business and take care of my daughter, and feeling like I was in alignment, that my mind, my heart, and my body were aligned in the right direction, that my energy was all flowing in this direction of, yes, I can take care of my business, and yes, I can take care of my daughter. And when I focused on my energy, when I focused on those things, that month, I tripled my income.
Wow.
My actions, I cut almost by 75%, but my energy, I doubled down on, and I increased my income. I tripled my income in that month, and was able to take care of and really be there for my daughter in the way that she needed. So when I say our energy is our greatest asset, I believe that like down to my very core. And one of my mentors said once, if we don't have time to spend on our energy, we don't have time to make money. That we really have to spend the time working on our energy and understanding where our energy is at. And our energy, I believe, is made up of what we believe, think, and feel.
Mm-hmm. Which is that the mind, heart, and body? Is that the connection that you feel is true? You've said this to me before, and you've said it in this podcast interview too. So I just kind of want to highlight that because it's such a beautiful part of the message that you tell, is like all of these things in alignment, energetically flowing. And for me, it connects in what I tell my clients is that joy is your strategy. And that is when you're in a state of joy, when you're in a state of flow, that means that your energy is flowing.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you have those 3 touch points, though. It's like, is it flowing in all 3 of these areas? Because if it's not, you're like kinking the hose, right?
Exactly. And you're running up against those invisible brick walls. I think we all have them, right? It's that, yes, I want to move forward. I have a plan to move forward. I know the why of how I'm going to move forward and why I want to move forward, but I feel like I'm stopping myself. I feel like I'm running into this invisible brick wall. And we really beat ourselves up for this invisible brick wall, right? Like, I don't know why I'm not making progress, but I just feel like I keep stopping myself. And I think that invisible brick wall, we can't beat ourselves up. We can't blame ourselves for running into something we can't see. It's only when we bring that brick wall into awareness that we have a choice, right? When we can see it, then we can choose whether to go around it or under it or over it or continue to run into it. But we have to be able to see it in order to choose something different. So 95% of our thoughts are subconscious. We're not aware of them. So how do we access these invisible brick walls? If 95% of our thoughts and beliefs are invisible, how do we access them?
Great question. How do we access them?
And that is through our body and our heart, right? Like pain. So one of my favorite acronyms, actually, it was a client of mine that came up with this acronym. I think it's brilliant. But pain is an opportunity to pay attention inside now, PAIN, right? That when we're bumping up against an invisible brick wall, how do you know you're running into an invisible brick wall? Only because your nose hurts and your head hurts and you're completely frustrated that you're stopping, right? So that's a really good time to move, to get still, to move inward. One of the things that I really love about breath work is that it gets us out of our head and into our body. And it lets our body, it's like, yes, there's an invisible brick wall here, and we can move through it. We can pause, move through it using the wisdom of our body. So yeah, that's one of the ways that we can be aware of an invisible brick wall is emotional pain or physical pain, letting us know.
That so many of us are ignoring or trying to numb out. Many of us, this was me for a long time, just numbing out the pain because to me it felt easier. But then when somebody told me that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, and I realized that with my numbing out, I was suffering. I was just extending this like low key pain that was stopping me, and it was causing so many invisible barriers that when we go ahead and turn into the pain, this is what I learned through our breath work is how much turning into the pain releases those brick walls, makes them evident. And sometimes all they want is for you to see them. And then they fall. As soon as you look at them, as soon as you spend a little time with them, they simply fall. Do you feel like that's true of you and the work that you've done with your clients for years and years? Because you're new to breath work, but you've been doing embodiment, somatic work. You've been doing this for a long time. So you have a lot of skill and experience in this arena.
Oh, 100%. And it really was my own personal journey as well. I started on this journey of understanding how the mind and the body and the heart work together because of my own journey with emotional eating. I struggled with emotional and binge eating for years, just disordered thinking around food because there were so many emotions that I was numbing. I was buffering. I was, pushing down. I didn't have the capacity or the tools to understand them. And it felt completely frustrating, right? Like it was like, I remember sitting at my computer, Googling, like, why do I eat cookies at 3:00 in the afternoon, right? Like, why am I in my pantry at 3:00 in the afternoon? Like, Google, tell me the answer, right? And every time I was looking for the answer in somebody else, whether it was a book or a diet or a podcast or what my friend was doing, I was giving my power away. Right. And then I was wondering why I felt powerless. But as I turned inward, as I really started to listen to my body, and as I recognized that when I did tune inward, when I listened to my body through stillness, through meditation, through visualization, through breath work, that my body held answers that I was not even aware of. Right. It's what I call the first voice and the second voice, right? The first voice is that truth within us. It's the woman that we know in our heart we're designed to be. It's what I call, it's that little niggle. We catch glimpses of that woman. It's what pulls us forward. It's probably why you're doing the work that you're doing, why I'm doing the work that I'm doing, right? It's that part of us that says, yes, I'm meant for something great. I'm meant for something more, right? And we have that first voice that's like deep down in our core, and we can access that through our body and our heart. What happens is that once we kind of get a glimpse of that truth of who we are, the second voice kicks in. And that's the noise in our head. That's all the yeah buts and the what ifs. That's all the limiting beliefs. That's the way that we've seen the world since childhood. All of that is the noise that gets in the way. And so when we can use our body and our heart to really tap into and turn the volume up on that truth within us, when we can tap into the feeling of that, that's what pulls us forward, right? Like one of my very favorite quotes, if you're around me for any length of time, you'll hear me say it, is where you shine your light is what you will see, and what you see is the direction you'll go. So if I'm in the middle of the forest and I'm shining my light in the middle of the night in one direction, I'm not going to walk in the opposite direction. I'm going to walk in the direction my light is shining. The problem is that most of us are shining the light on the noise in our head instead of the truth in our body and our heart. And so somatic healing, getting into our body and our heart, feeling and experiencing what it feels like to be that woman we know in our heart we're designed to be, that's what turns the volume up on our first voice, so that we can shine our light on that and be pulled forward in the energy of that in the direction we want to go.
Oh, that's such a cool way of describing it. Thank you for that visual with the flashlight, and they say where your focus goes, like that's where things are going to grow. And so it's a very similar metaphor to that, but also just really defines like exactly what's happening. Thank you so much for that. So do you have out of your pocket, if you can, and totally okay if not, something that could help people to shine a flashlight inside, like a quick breathing exercise or just a little something that you could potentially offer for somebody who's listening, who's like, okay, I want to shine my light on that voice. I don't want to shine it on this voice that has been leading me into brick walls, invisible brick walls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a tool called still. Okay. So the first step is S, right? Step back. S is where you recognize that there is pain. And sometimes that's physical pain. Most of the time we're recognizing it as like frustration or anger or something that feels like you're out of alignment. So let's say it's frustration, right? I'm not getting the results that I want. So you step back, you recognize, oh, there's the frustration, and you step back. And then T, you tune in, you listen, find that frustration in your body, right? And then you intend, you listen to that voice, okay? You listen, you let it be there, okay? And then the L is that you allow it. You listen to the voice and you name it, you let it be there. And then the second L is that you lean into it. You allow it to be there. You name it and you listen to what it has to say for you. So you get still by basically tuning in and listening to what your body has to say. And then you're open to that. And then you can do a couple of deep breaths and move into the truth and find that in your body. One of the things that I think is the most powerful is just accessing and recognizing where the yes lives in our body. So recognizing where that truth is in your own body. What is it? When do you feel the most powerful? When do you feel like the most authentic version of you? And what is that feeling? Is it strength? Is it courage? Is it joy, like you brought up? And just finding that truth, finding where it lives in your body, and acknowledging that that's a truth too. So coming from a place of acknowledging, stepping back and acknowledging the pain. Okay, yes, frustration is here. It's real. What do you have to teach me? What's the message here? And then tuning into the joy that is also there. And then asking, how can I move forward from here? Which one do I want to move forward from? The frustration or the joy? Because both are true. They're both here.
That's one of the most beautiful things that you have really brought into my awareness is, and you've touched on it in multiple ways throughout this podcast. It's such a thematic with what you believe and embody is that yes and something you specifically said to me was it's yes and both. Like it's both. You can be frustrated and joyful. You can have both of these experiences. And I think that duality is something that's really difficult in our society where we've been raised in this black and white. It's this or that. And it's not both, that it can be kind of challenging, I think, for us to grasp that idea that both of those are existing in our bodies. And when we get quiet with ourselves and open our awareness to it, we feel it. We know that it's there. Like there isn't this trying to understand how can I be both in my head. You don't need to try to figure that out. You're feeling it already. Both of those things are happening up in your body if you would get still and listen and open to it, as you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that I've heard you say that you love about breath work is that it really helps you to tune into the truth of who you are. And alignment isn't about always feeling roses and sunshine all the time. Alignment is accepting that all parts of us are welcome here, that the beautiful tapestry of our life includes the light and the dark parts, and that our the shadows that we have in our life actually create depth and meaning for our life, and they don't need to be erased. They just need to be heard and understood. A lot of the work that I do with my clients is, what are the shadows trying to teach you? What is the message here? And when they recognize that, wow, I can have compassion for those parts of myself, they become a really beautiful part of the journey versus something that's stopping them or getting in the way. It actually is part of the process that moves them forward instead of stops them.
Yes, you're so right. Everything that you just said, I'm just like fist pumping because it is the things that on this journey that you and I have been on together, the biggest things are compassion, allowing all of it to be there, and welcoming those bits of myself that I used to just push away, that I was like, I don't want this piece of myself. I wish it would go away. I did all the mindset things to make it go away. And instead just being like, oh, that's part of me. Hi, welcome. So nice to meet you. Actually saying in my head as I'm doing breath work, saying hello to those actual pieces because they're talking to you physically. They are. And if you stop and you get still with them, you'll feel it. And this might sound wild to the listener who has not tried breath work or not tried embodiment practices, but it's so dang powerful, y'all. Like it really, really is.
It 100% is, because and that's exactly what somatics and embodiment is all about. It really truly is listening to our body and listening to the wisdom that is there. I can't tell you the number of clients that I've had who either come to me with an emotional pain or a physical pain. A lot of the work that I do is body work with actual physical pain in their body that they can't explain. They've done all the things, but the pain still exists. And that's because the pain is there trying to get their attention, right? The way that our body communicates with us is through our feelings. Our symptoms are just the way that our body is trying to send us a message. So if we pause and actually listen there's beautiful wisdom that is there that is showing us exactly what we need to heal. I think I shared this with you in the power of somatics and the power of embodiment. When we cut ourselves, we don't have to look at our hand and say, heal, 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 heal. Our body knows exactly what it needs to do to heal. And that's exactly what happens when we allow our emotions to be healed as well. And that's through getting out of our head and into our body. And sometimes we have to bring that cut and we have to clean it out and we have to bring it out into the fresh air. And that is what a lot of these embodiment practices do, is it allows these things to come to the surface so they can get a little fresh air. So maybe we can clean out the dirt. Then our body actually knows the way to heal. And it's been incredible when, I work with people who have had debilitating migraines or chronic back pain, or just, one woman that I worked with recently just had this massive headache for 2 weeks. And it was as we worked through her body to understand what her body was trying to communicate with her, it was just the pressure was really trying to send her a message. And when she stepped into that message and really listened, the headache wasn't needed anymore. It went away. So it's fascinating. It's powerful. It feels woo. It is. And it's really cool at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I know I've talked a lot with you and just on the podcast in general. I'm like, I'm a Midwestern girl and everything's weird, but I'm so willing to try it all. And it's so much fun to go down this road and get to explore it. And it's been the biggest treat to get to do it with you. Thank you so much for sharing all of your magic with us and all of your wisdom and your knowledge. I do have one last question for you, Misty. Sure. Where do you see the magic in the world?
What a great question. Oh, it's interesting. About 2 years ago, I think, I started a practice of every night just reviewing the miracles, like just, God, show me the miracles from today. And it has been one of the most life-changing practices I've ever participated in, because I get to just have these little magical moments brought to my attention that I might have even missed. A lot of times they're like, oh, that conversation that I had with my son, that was literally magical. That was literally a miracle. I didn't even realize it at the time, but that's exactly what I needed. That's exactly what he needed. Like, oh, that download that came in that session that I had with my client, that was absolutely magical. What a miracle. And it has been such a beautiful practice to just marinate in the miracle every night before I go to sleep. It's really been a beautiful and powerful exercise. So that's where I see the magic.
So beautiful. The magic is in marinating in the miracles.
Mm-hmm.
That's so lovely. Is there anything else that you want to share today that we haven't gotten to? Any little nuggets that are on your mind, your heart, mind, and body, Misty?
Just thank you. Thank you for bringing these ideas and concepts into the world in your magical way. I just have so enjoyed getting to know you. It really, truly has been a gift. And I think that the work that you're doing, you truly are embodying the woman you know in your heart you're designed to be. And I can see that in everything that you do. So thank you.
I've started listening. Misty, where can people find you?
So they can find me on Instagram and Facebook. It's Misty Springer Coaching. Reach out. I would love to hear anything that resonated, any questions that you have. I know this is a new concept. So any thoughts, questions, anything that came as something that resonated or an aha, I would love to hear.
Beautiful. Thank you again so much for coming on. And I'll have all your links in the show notes. I know you've got a new offer that's coming up. And if that's available, we'll have that in the show notes, all the things so you can connect with fabulous Misty. You're going to want to stay connected with her. She's just such a gorgeous, wonderful human. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Jen.
Oh my gosh. I hope you love Misty as much as I do. I know that you do. She's so great. A few of the things that she said that really just stood out to me and that I personally believe in too is that your body holds the answers. And the way that she said it is that your body holds the answers that your mind doesn't even know about. This is why breath work, other somatic work, really getting out of your mind and into your body. If you followed along with this podcast, you know, you've been along this journey with me and seen how powerful it has been for me to really start to do this embodiment work and how it can really support us in maintaining and giving more flexibility to our nervous system. I mean, this is some scientific stuff, people. It's also spiritual, but it's also scientific. She also said your energy is your greatest asset and that we need to pay attention to what are the yeses that we are feeling in our bodies. What are the yeses? What are the things that just really light us up? Because that's what's going to lead you to your ultimate and most amazing possibilities and potential in your life. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you got something out of it. If you did, I encourage you to share this episode right here on social media. Take a little screenshot, share it in your stories. If you tag me, I will always, always, always reshare it. You just keep shining your magical unicorn light out there for all to see. I'll see you next time.